I'm Dr. Troy Spurl, and our podcast is Synapse SNPS. Our podcast teaches people about how the body is supposed to work, basically how we were innately made. Have you ever wondered why you get headaches? Ever wondered why you wake up and your feet don't work in the morning and they're achy, and then as you get walking, it gets better? Have you ever wondered why you don't remember your dreams? Have you ever wondered why you're gaining weight even though you're eating right, you're exercising, and the weight keeps coming on? Have you ever wondered why you're just feeling depressed? It's hard to get up off the couch. If you ever wondered about why you feel these things and why you're not just feeling right, listen to our podcast to get the answers. We get to the root cause and we tell you why. Make sure you're listening to Synapse SNPS each and every week where we answer the questions that you guys have. Also, you can find us at officialsynapse.com. That's official Synapse, SYNAPSE.com. Hi, this is Dr. Troy. Welcome to Synapse SNPS. I'm here with Ellie today, and we are going to talk stress versus trauma. Mm-hmm. So for me, this is one of the big areas of the healthcare system that's really not addressed all that well. Mm-hmm. And also, I think this is a big area of need coming in the season we're in right now, just the United States, Canada, really the world, and moving forward. Mm-hmm. So the word trauma is resonating with so many people right now. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between stress and trauma and what we can do about that. Let's start first with just introduce yourself again. A lot of people may know you now, mm-hmm. but you've been here at Synapse for a little while, and we brought you on for this reason. Not many reasons, but mm-hmm. Helping us with stress and trauma is a big part of it. So tell us a little bit about your background and what you've been doing here at Synapse.
Yeah, thank you so much. So my name is Ellie Joseph, and I'm a trauma-informed practitioner who has experience in specifically somatic work. So how does the mind and the body hold on to trauma, hold on to stress? How do we actually release that? And then have a background in wellness coaching as well. So kind of blend a lot of different things into how do we stop actually making sense of things in our mind and move forward? How do we create a roadmap so that our body's not constantly living in a triggered or a stress state, and just teaching people the tools, giving them that power back of how do I make sure life is not just happening for me, but I'm an active participant in my own life.
Yeah, you're also a nurse, so you do mm-hmm. you help with our IV department, and yep. You came in and did a lot of great work there. So if she's giving you an IV at some point, don't be surprised. Aren't you the mm-hmm. stress person? Why are you poking me yep. with that needle?
Yep.
So all I can say is since we've onboarded you here at Synapse, I have been getting the same feedback from a lot of our patients. I love Ellie, so that's a good sign. So we like great. That. And there's such a benefit to actually working on stress, and people are surprised when they start to learn more about that. Mm-hmm. One of the things we do here is the mindset class. I used to run that myself, and you've taken that over. You want to comment a little bit about what you're doing in the mindset class, which is part of our bigger programs here, but mm-hmm. it's a very, very important part of the healing process.
Yeah. So with the mindset class, one thing that we really touch base on is how much does your mindset or your belief system, how does that actually influence your health? If you believe that you were always rejected, how much does that lens create something that you're constantly looking for? And then it's constantly validating as evidence, and then you kind of shrink back or play really small in life because yeah. it's playing, it's feeding into that system or into that belief. Yeah. And kind of going, peeling back the layers of where in life do we feel powerless? And so we start to use our strengths and then overdo it. And then at the end, actually isolate and feel more alone. Because they did a study which was really interesting on what is worse when it comes to what affects us worse. Is it powerlessness or being alone? And they found that oftentimes powerlessness, and when we try to fix it or do more, actually leads to aloneness. And how much does that change that psychology piece changes our physiology. So it changes how we actually respond with our immune system and our hormones and the way we move, the way we react and interact with the world. If we believe that the world is against us or they're never going to come and help, how much does it create that lens? And then we start to play into that. And create a totally different narrative that we live through.
That can change your internal physiology so much as far as how everything works. You could be eating the perfect diet and not absorbing the nutrients as efficiently. And we see that. We like to measure that. Yeah, that's really impactful, because when you get that component addressed and just the awareness of it, that's when the healing starts, right?
Yep.
So just having that awareness of, oh my gosh, this is my self-limiting belief. This is one of the areas, and it is surprising how many people are caught up in the drift of life where they're busy and they have business of life, but they're alone. They feel so alone. They feel so helpless, so powerless, and they've got all of this around them. So in the midst of all of this high energy, everything going on, we're seeing time and time again, people are just kind of sinking. And so this is like a life preserver to be able to have that awareness and to be lifted up out of that. So yeah, I think it's brilliant, but I'm biased.
Yeah. And you think about how exactly what you were saying, they found that everything kind of stems down to, when it comes to limiting beliefs, it's either abandonment or rejection. And so even just realizing that busyness is an inability to actually sit back, trust that you'll be taken care of, and receive all the love around you, the goodness, the joy, because you're just too busy living in that stress pattern of, I need to prove that I'm not rejected, or I'm not alone, or I'm not abandoned.
We've talked on a lot of our podcasts about fight or flight, people being stuck in fight or flight. This is kind of a next level of identifying it in you, but also some tools. Like, that's what you do, right? You help people have awareness and then bring tools to help navigate through that. Because there are things that we look at biochemically. Copper toxicity can cause fight or flight. Sleep disorders can cause fight or flight. But our mindset is something that's there 24/7. Even when we're unconsciously sleeping, our mindset is still at work. So it's something that is very valuable when it comes to actually working on, and yet it doesn't really happen, does it? Not a lot. I mean, it does here. That's why we've always had a focus on that. And through the years, the people that have been listening to us know that we talk about our clearings and the emotional traumas, but we're getting into the depths of just discerning a little bit, like, what is the difference between stress and trauma. So maybe walk us through that paradigm there as far as stress, what is it, and then trauma, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about how to recognize, how can people recognize whether they're in a stress state or a traumatic state.
Yeah. It's interesting that I think right now stress is kind of like a bad word in our society, but at the end of the day, stress can actually be, it's something that's created in us to help us grow. If you think about, so there's essentially three different phases that your nervous system can go through. And your nervous system is what really connects your mind to your body and your body to your mind. It's that interactive pathway. And so when you think about when you're most present, when you feel safe, when you feel connected, you're able to have fun, laugh, you're taking yourself less seriously, life less seriously, that's considered your social engagement stage, where you're very present with yourself, you're connected. Typically you're connected to yourself, to others, to God, and it's just, it feels wonderful. We all want to feel that.
Yes.
That's where we're constantly wanting to go back, that home base. And then there's that stress that comes in, and stress is actually supposed to help us grow. If you think about your first job interview, or becoming a mom for the first time, or trying some kind of new skill set, whether it was at the gym or mentally something new, it was a little stressful, and then you did it, and you were able to grow your capacity. You were able to actually have greater awareness and a new skill set. And so stress can be really empowering. It forces us to move. What happens when we have too much stress and we're overwhelmed, or we have stress that we haven't processed and digested, and it keeps compounding, that can lead to trauma. So whether it was stress when we were very little, thinking of childhood, when it was too much for our system to handle, we were, told to be adults or to deal something on our own. When we were little and we needed an adult, that can be very stressful, leading to trauma. Or even in today's society, where we're just moving so fast, we're not slowing down to get back to that first home base stage, that it can lead to trauma. Yep. It's that definition again of it was too much or it happened too soon. And so the stress became overwhelming.
Yeah, and then when that happens, overwhelmed, we tend to shut down, we withdraw from who we are. And I was just on I was a guest on another podcast, and they asked me what is the biggest problem we have in the United States. They didn't say disease or anything like that, but what's the biggest problem? And my answer shocked them. And I said, our biggest problem is people don't know who they are. They've lost their identity. They've lost their identity in God, in Christ, and they don't have that true identity of self as far as even mentally, chemically, physically. But when people are overwhelmed, then they put up protective barriers, and after a while you start to lose a little bit of who the authentic version of you is. The more trauma you've had in your life, the more likely something like that's going to happen. So spending some time on figuring out what your identity is will lead to, this is my purpose. And then you know when your yes should be a yes, your no should be a no, and you have some discernment that comes through that, because you know, no, this is who I am. And I'm okay that you would disagree with that, because I know this is who I am, or whatever that ends up being, as far as just you don't feel bad when people people say no, and they, because they're trying, a lot of people try and make you like them.
Yep.
This worked for me, do this, and
Yep.
it's not necessarily going to be the thing that works for you, because we're all so unique. So what I love is that when you are identifying the overwhelming stressors, or just the traumas that have happened, and then start to shine light on it, is that a helpful thing, to shine light on it and then start to work on it? Like, how does someone heal from trauma?
Yeah, I think a lot of people assume that if you talk about your trauma, if you make sense and connect the dots of, oh, this is why this happened, that it'll go away.
Yep.
Unfortunately, our body has its own memory. So we have our brain, and it gets developed, at age 5, it really starts to develop the memory part of our brain. So everything before 5, especially when we're still we're really growing up and learning what is healthy, what is not, what is for me, who am I, what are my boundaries, that's already imprinted in our bodies. And so it really comes down to getting really slowing down, because again, trauma makes us try to just move really fast. We're in that fight or flight. We don't want to be present because it's unsafe. And so it's just really slowing those steps down and going back to the story that your body is holding, going back to where are the signs and symptoms actually within your body, because your body does have a language. And very often we get stuck living in our brain trying to figure out the message, instead of recognizing God gave us this enormous, it's just such a source of wisdom. It actually holds a lot of our traumas, and how do we unlock that? How do we sit with and pay attention to those parts of us that shame will often say it's not welcome, so let's keep moving forward. Let's try to outrun it somehow.
Let's ignore it, and we have the sayings, let's sweep it under the carpet, let's try and outrun it, and you're on a treadmill. It's different things like that, and just having the awareness, like you said, it's like going to the gym and figuring out, oh my gosh, I have a little bit of an obesity issue here, I need, and weak core. Just identifying it doesn't mean your core is going to get strong. You got to put the work in, and you have to retrain your system physically. And when it comes to trauma, it's the same thing. What I've seen so far with the work you've done, and just in the past with people who've had true healing from trauma, is that there's a process, and the brain itself can be rewired, if you will. It can't. There's a scenario where you can learn a new way of interpreting life by shifting your filters. And so it just takes work, effort, and one of the biggest words I'm going to say is vulnerability, because it's not easy to be vulnerable when you've put up barriers because of trauma. And so that vulnerability, one of the things I love about how your approach, and you can tell, people listening can tell, but just how you speak, and you create a place for people to allow them to be vulnerable without judgment, without any of that, and then help guide them through it. You're like a Sherpa, really. Ellie does CrossFit too, so she's like a CrossFit Sherpa for your emotions.
Strong and gentle.
Yes.
At the same time.
So it's people appreciate how they are led from this vulnerable, traumatic state and place into this new place that offers hope in the beginning, it's hope. It's a potential path out of their dungeon, if you will.
Yeah.
And so just having that is life-giving. And it's not that I'm lazy, but I know if people see you and they work with you, I won't have to do as much.
It's a team effort,
It's a
right?
team effort. I won't have to adjust people as much because their muscles will be better.
Yep.
They won't have the tension that they had before. I won't have to run as many labs because their inflammation internally will be down. There's so many benefits from working on the emotional side of health, physically, chemically, mentally. We see people sleep better. People actually can move better. People don't need as much of the other therapeutics that we offer here. So it really is a beautiful, it's a big missing tool in the toolbox for a lot of practitioners for years. So before we finish up here, what led you to do this work? Because you're trained as a nurse, you're very intelligent, your emotional intelligence equals the actual science intelligence. How did you land into this arena?
I also got to a point, it's very much a part of my own personal story of being a nurse. I did travel nursing, did missions for about a year, and also realized, wow, my body is absolutely exhausted and I don't quite know who I am. Yeah. Even recognizing so many people pleasing tendencies and coming down to, this actually really hurts. I looked around, it was right before COVID, looked around and realized I don't actually have a lot of people running life with me. Yeah. And so I was going to go back and become a mental health practitioner. And then it was such a beautiful journey because I invited God into it, and God kind of steered me into, actually, let's use your nursing and build on top of it. Because nursing is so much work with people. And that was always my favorite part of nursing, is sitting down and hearing someone's story, or really slowing things down. Because even when you're going through any kind of health crisis or disease, disorder, everything gets so chaotic and you feel out of control. Yeah. And just the benefit of having someone sit with you, listen, understand, not even have to say anything, but just know, hey, there's someone here in my corner. Yeah. And so that really sparked a lot of my own journey, and just got me really curious about how do we actually heal trauma. Because I did a lot of talk therapy too, and realized, okay, yes, I have that awareness, but I'm still stuck mentally, or my body is still triggering and having all of these reactions. I'm still feeling sick. My immune system is still so weak. Yeah. And so learning about the nervous system, learning about how that mind and body connect, how they're always both active, and how do we actually work with both of them, was such a godsend. Yeah. So it's something I'm very passionate about, because I've seen so many people, including myself, benefit so much from it.
It's hard to think of you as weak, because you're like, we see her legitimately as this CrossFit Sherpa mentally, this emotional mental CrossFit Sherpa that just kind of is in control. So that for me is the best way. It's usually our personal testimonies, and then walking things out, and then obedience, praying about it, and then just being obedient. And a lot of times you end up doing things that you don't want to do. They're out of your comfort zone, and you end up doing it, and then the reward comes, and then there's more things that you don't want to do, and that's all part of it. So and that's what we were looking for, because I do remember in one of our leadership meetings talking about how I'd like to start training someone or doing something where other people are doing the mindset class, and it didn't really work. We tried to hand it off and everything, and then you came along, and it's been seamless. It's been improved. Like, you've added so much value to that. So our patients love you, our staff loves you. In fact, this is a little inside information, but some of our staff get a little overwhelmed with a patient that has I'm going to say needing a Sherpa. They're just like, here, Ellie, help.
No, I mean, I love it. So
yeah, and that's why I know you are working and walking out your purpose. And again, you can only do that if you know your identity, and knowing your identity means taking away some of those barriers that have been put up over the years, which, no shame here, we all have. Every single one of us has it. And anyone who's become successful at some point in life, that's an authentic success. I'm not talking about a Hollywood success and then they're suicidal afterwards. I'm talking about someone who's authentically done their purpose, who's successful with life, whether it be just there for showing up for one person in their life and you're prepared for that moment, or where you're actually influencing many, many people. they've gone through stuff. They've had to have gone through stuff to get to where they are right now, to walk in that with humility and grace at the same time, with expectations of excellence. It doesn't happen by accident. There's always this process of us being broken down and remolding, being built back up, just like a muscle in the gym. So I thank you for the work you're doing. I did want to make an announcement before we end this, because there's a lot of people who need this and want this. And so we are going to be opening up some small meetings. They're not too many, about 10 a month of free consults where people can kind of just meet with you and see if this is a need. Because we have programs that are just coaching programs for this side of health. So if you don't need to or don't want to work on the physical and the lab part of your health, you can just do this part of it with Ellie. And if she recognizes something because of your medical background, if you recognize something where there is necessarily lab work stuff, then you'll work with us to get that stuff done. But if you want to take a look at whether or not this is something for you, go ahead and call in and just ask for a free 10-minute consult, and we'll do 10 of those a month. Sometimes they go a little more than 10 minutes, but that's okay. We'll set it up, and you can sit down with Ellie, and she'll walk through that with you. And it's 10 minutes, and you can get a sense of whether or not this is a good fit for you. Does that sound right?
Fantastic, yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to all of it.
Well, sounds good. Thanks again for coming on this podcast. Thank you, everyone, for all of your downloads, all your views, and all of just the support you offer the clinic as well. We're here for you, but we definitely recognize that we've had a lot of people that are praying for the clinic, that are helping the clinic and helping the people of the clinic. So I appreciate all of you, and until next time, this is Dr. Troy and Synapse SNPS. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Synapse SNPS podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe to the podcast and share the podcast. To learn more, check out our website at www.officialsynapse.com. Until next time, this has been Synapse SNPS podcast. We'll see you on the next episode. This podcast is for information purposes only and should under no circumstances be considered medical advice or a substitute for medical care. Any information given in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease and is at the user's own risk. Please first consult a licensed healthcare professional.